It's the only workers that aren't essential, the Working Fans Podcast.
Mr. Pat Oates.
Pat, welcome to the show.
Hey, one of the greatest intros of all time. If you could do my eulogy, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, so we appreciate it.
I wasn't included one of the biggest wrestling fans because I 45 years, die hard. I every day watch WWE Network. I binge more than Netflix. Since the network started, after the first couple months of just playing through it and stuff, I decided I was going to binge watch every Raw from 1993 and then the SmackDowns and the pay-per-views, and I'm on 2003 right now. So I've done 10 years. Every night I watch at least 3 or 4 or the pay-per-views, and I just watch it like it's regular. That's what I binge watch. I grew up on it. I used to go locally in New Haven when they come to the Civic Center or the Coliseum there, and I watched it every day and grew up with it and still watch it to this day.
One of the things I hear a lot of the old-time wrestlers talk about was back in the day when they go to different territories, they may have to change their style of how they performed with that particular audience. Do you ever have to do that in comedy if you're in a different demographic, have to maybe change the act up a bit?
It's just like the booking territories. I think the performers think they have to do it because they're afraid that if they don't, they won't get booked in the territory. But once you realize it's your talent that's getting you there, then you do your own thing. So when I first started, I was more afraid of, maybe they won't hire me again. So if they tell me to be clean, or say not to say this, don't say that, I want to come back. And then I finally realized, no, I'm the one creating all this. They don't know my act. They're just overthinking things and thinking fans are going to leave, or they're overthinking the room. So after a while, I'm like, screw that. I'm being me. And the crowds would laugh because they're overthinking it. People want to laugh. They're thinking what they think other people want. So it's like, that's not a thought that gets caught in a lot of young comics' heads. But just be yourself. I mean, if someone says, hey, don't swear, and that's their rule, then if you swear, don't take the game. That's what you do. Why would you take it to one show? It doesn't matter. So, yeah, I think that's something that you're supposed to realize. When Hogan decided, I don't need territory, I'm Hulk Hogan. And then he says, what is Hulk Hogan? Once Vince got in here and did that, he would change who he was unless he wanted to. He wanted to be bad guy, so he did it on his own. No one wanted him to not be the real American, but he did it. He said, screw you, I'm Hollywood Hogan, and just went against the green and became more famous than the heel. I just myself Hulk Hogan, and that's fine.
I think, like myself, what I have most in common with Hogan at this point is my hairline.
and sagging tits.
Absolutely. I think one of the problems we have in wrestling right now is that people are afraid to be themselves because of the WWE system to a point, and I think that that's what's hurting them and affecting their ratings in wrestling, quite frankly.
Well, I also think that because no one's showing that they can. I mean, someone really says, I think the people that are wrestling now, the younger kids, are more worried about, and I don't know what you guys are a fan of. I'm not a fan of AEW because I hate the Young Bucks, and I know that's against the grain of things. I like when wrestlers sell, when they care. The Young Bucks are a fucking trapeze act, and they're not saying they're not talented. It's not what I like. These young kids now are more worried about the cool moves and the things that are on the internet and all that stuff. So when they come up, they're not caring about building a character because they're like, they'll build me one. I have to learn sweet flips. I had to learn how to jump on 12 people if they stand there pretend they're going to catch me. Why would 12 people stand there waiting to catch you? Why are you standing there? What are you looking up at? Run away. A guy's running at you. To me, that's what the problem is. If somebody's going to take the bull by the horns and do that, which, by the way, Adam Cole is doing that. Adam Cole still, they say that flat out. Cole turns to Shawn Michaels and all of them and says, I'm doing this. And Undisputed Era is a proof that if you come out there and do what you want to do, they'll let you do it. But if Seth Rollins proved he couldn't do it, so they're like, no, bitch, we're going to make him Messiah. But that's it. So I think it really is, once again, it's the talent having to step up and proving they can prove it. I can do this. If not, of course, the big company machine is going to say, well, then screw you. We're just going to write this, and you're going to get lost in the shuffle because they're not taking those chances. And right now, it's harder because there's nowhere else to go. You can't take a chance because if you get fired, where are you going? There's nowhere else to go because there's no money anywhere with COVID and all that.
Would you say that a lot of the young wrestlers, it seems like they're hitting the hot spots, they're hitting their high spots, they're trying to do everything fast, boom, boom, boom. And is that more like mirror society a little bit? Like, okay, even though it's athletically hard, it's the easy way to try to get that cheap pop. And having the patience to build a long story is a dying art, much like people don't want to, everybody wants to binge watch a series now. Nobody wants to, wait a week.
Yeah, it's definitely that, and it's also the evolution of they don't want to be their grandfathers at headlocks and chain wrestling, and they can't be the attitude era it really wasn't wrestling. Especially all the back, I think it's great. The wrestling itself wasn't that great. It was storylines and madness. The matches themselves a lot of times were just not even really matches. It was just a lot of gaga.
Right.
And then I think the younger kids watching that were like, started watching ECW and started watching, I think big influences are young people like Evan Bourne back then and stuff like that, where they're like, well, you're kind of getting over, but they're not doing the weird stuff, and that looks cool, and I'm little, I can do that. I don't want to get with a chair, and I don't want to be this. And I think that's kind of where that came from. But there still are guys, as much as I don't like AEW, MJF is old school. MJF is 1980s heel.
Yeah.
And guys like that, that's the ones you watch. I love Baron Corbin. I'm one of the biggest Baron Corbin fans in the world because he's one of the few guys who actually gets heat, like a Bradshaw and stuff. He's a real heel. You'll never cheer for him. And that guys like that are taking those chances. There's few and far between. But yeah, most of them just want highlight reels. They want you to say, that looks cool.
Yeah, we had this talk with somebody the other day where they were putting down Baron Corbin, and I told them flat out, I was like, do you not like Baron Corbin? And they told me, they're like, no, I hate him. I was like, that's his job. You're not supposed to like him.
Give me another heel you hate right now. Nobody can.
Exactly.
The Miz was that for years, and then they because of that TV show, he had to go face a little bit and ruined it. But the Miz was incredible at it.
Yeah.
Even when you started to cheer for him, he made sure you did. Jericho for years was amazing at that. You go, you know what? I'm starting to like it, and he turn around and make you so much better. But like right now, Corbin's that guy. He's the only one that can really do that.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Now, with your style of comedy, I'll be honest with you, a lot of it almost reminds me of the old school promos. Not necessarily the heel promos or that you're doing a promo, but the way you're able to actually communicate your feelings to the crowd and the way you're able to get a connection with them.
And sometimes it comes off like Ultimate Warrior. I don't know where I'm going with it. I can't hear it for some reason. but yeah, I mean, I'm not. The one thing it's funny is I joke about anything on stage. I don't joke about wrestling because I love it too much. And it's the one thing I'm like, I don't want to make fun of it. Like, I love it too much. I make references and I'll say things, but like, if you don't. But yeah, to me, when I'm on stage, I'm cutting promos. Right. I'm the Road Warriors. I'm coming out yelling, and I want them to learn catchphrases. It's definitely that old school. Like, I was never a fan of the guys who yelled. I was a fan more of, like, obviously Jake Roberts, where he, like, changed how you do promos. Like, when you bring the silence down. That's a thing I learned from a comedian, AJ, I think you know, Rodney Norman.
Oh, absolutely.
Hilarious comic. Rodney taught me something when I started. It's called Moth to a Flame. You quiet yourself. The people in the back are talking. You quiet down. You tell jokes to the people that are paying attention. They're getting the message. Other people in the back that aren't listening will quiet down. They go, what are they looking at? What are they listening to? And that's what Jake Roberts did. He brought it down. You got quiet. You listen to the Undertaker. Knew early on, not Mark Calloway now having feelings and shit. Undertaker, that's the day where you'd be quiet on a fucking ranch talking about it. Fuck you. I don't want to see you cry. You're not supposed to have parents, Mark Calloway. He's the Undertaker. Anyway, so I love that documentary anyway. But like, it's one of those things where in wrestling, I learned at the beginning I would scream and yell in comedy. It would just get some people. When I learned to sometimes yell and then sometimes bring it down, with a good promo, I would get their attention more.
So almost like a high spot then, essentially. Don't hit them all the time with it. Save it and make it mean more.
Just tell a good story. It doesn't even have to have high spots. Just give me Macho Man's Dragon in fucking WrestleMania 3.
Absolutely.
Just a bunch of false finishes where you think I'm going to be done for a while. You don't know what's happening. But at the end, it's scripted out, but you don't think it is.
Have you ever performed with any wrestlers or know any wrestlers? Because it seems like there's a lot of wrestlers trying to do comedy right now.
No, I did have a wrestling podcast for a little bit with a guy named Derek Moore. And Derek is a comedian who also does wrestling announcing. He worked at the Power Factory for a little bit too. Or Monster Factory, I'm sorry. Factory for a little bit, and he had a connection with them. And so we were doing a podcast for a little bit. I had already had 3 other podcasts. It just got to be too much. And also, it got weird for me. It started making me watch wrestling not as a fan. And I was like, ooh, I don't like that. I don't want to watch it as an analyst like I do comedy. And it kind of like spoiled my guilty pleasure I love.
Sure.
So, but I love wrestling, but I don't want to. A lot of comics try to do that. I don't know. I don't want a wrestler trying to do comedy. Fuck you, Dolph Ziggler. I've seen it. It's not good. I got to see Mick Foley. That was funny, but story. He's not trying to do comedy. I don't know. I would never want to get involved. I can appreciate. I don't even want to know exactly how everything's done. I wish there was more kayfabe. I love the magic of it.
Oh, I miss the kayfabe. To me, that's the whole. When you do wrestling, you know it's good. When you go to the show and you're thinking to yourself, all right, I know how this works, and then you still get sucked into it. To me, that's when wrestling is truly great. When you get caught up in a storyline and it starts to blur the lines of reality for you.
When Ciampa and Gargano started that rivalry, I was like, I love wrestling again as much as I did as a kid.
Oh, absolutely.
And as I wasn't loving it, those two, even though we knew they're friends, even though we know it's fake, for 45 minutes you would forget. You're like, fucking Ciampa won't let this guy win. Ciampa, oh my God, what an asshole. I mean, he's probably one of my favorite wrestlers right now. I just absolutely love Ciampa. But Gargano and him, that was the rivalry you hadn't seen. Like, I was hoping Zayn and Owens would be allowed to do that when they came in, and they weren't allowed at the same level when they got to the big time than they were at NXT. But those two doing that, you forgot every time. You didn't care. There's no way they're doing that to each other. They would die if they kept going through that wood and kept doing that move. But no, you just watched it and you just got lost in a great movie. That doesn't happen now. Matches now, it doesn't happen. They're trying, or in an edge, they're trying, but it's not the same.
You know, one thing I noticed too, like with the whole, when everything happened with COVID, when they didn't have any, like even wrestlers in the audience, it was very hard for me to watch. And I thought it was...
Do you like it more now, though? Because to me, it's phonier now.
Well, see, here's the thing.
They're being paid to cheer.
No, I get where you're going with that too, right? It's definitely orchestrated. I guess I just find as a kid, so UFC has done like no fans in the audience. But when I'm watching an MMA fight, I'm rooting for the contest, the winner. So if I was a kid and I still was like holding on every outcome of this, I'd be like, oh man, I can't wait. But now I kind of watch it more for like, even though I'm a fan still, I'm watching it like for the performance and everything. And I don't know, like when it was just so dead quiet, it took away from it for a little bit for me.
Only a certain amount of people capitalize that. And to me,
yes,
who really shined and showing out, Bayley and Sasha.
Absolutely.
Amazing at that. Bayley would yell at Cole every time he said something. But I'm like, holy shit, she can hear him?
Right.
I never thought about that. And she's like, shut up, Cole. You know, I'm like, how cool is that? And she's wrestling, but she's still mad at Cole. And I think, if anything, it elevated them to the point where they're the best thing on wrestling right now.
Yeah, 100% agree.
I'm not a big fan of the fat guy in fucking Mandy. I'm not a fan
No.
Otis.
Nobody on the planet believes that.
I believe it. That's something you need. That you need an audience for.
Yes.
Right.
That's an audience thing. That shouldn't have. I felt so bad for Drew McIntyre not getting his moment in the sun.
Sure.
And this run is going to be forgotten, and they're going to make a move. I have a feeling Undisputed Era is going to come up and take that belt from him. But I don't think they're going to smack that. I think everyone thinks they're going to smack that. They're going to come take the belt from him and try to get him to chase the whole. He could be like maybe better off chasing someone again than being the guy, because he needed that pop. That, oh my God, you beat Brock, and he didn't get it. It hurt him. But like right now with no audience, you need good wrestling. Like that's what you need in the ring, but you need a decent story being told. You can't be over the top, zany, and stupid. Or is that? But the fucking Street Profits are the worst wrestlers in the history of the world. And they're sitting there and they're cheering for it. They're trying to make an audience that's not there to cheer for them. Like, do you not see there's no one there with red cups?
Right.
Put your cups down. What is smoke? I don't know what smoke is. I don't want it.
There's a few wrestlers like that. You can see where it definitely was like this autopilot and muscle memory where they would play to the crowd, and I caught that more when there was no fans. I'm like, what is he? Oh, that's right. He's used to doing that.
Me and Dave.
I guess I get that, but at the same time, it's like you should be focusing on this more than ever. Like,
right.
There's a reason why Edge and Orton are getting so much time, because they have to trust guys who can think about what they're going to do.
Sure.
But no one wants to watch them keep wrestling. And Edge looks like a fucking bag lady. Like, his eyes are fucking all back out. Like, it doesn't look good. It's like, I mean, Orton always looks amazing no matter what. And even when they're going, AJ, it's all the older guys. You'd think the younger guys would get a chance to shine a little bit in this, but I don't think they know how.
It's
weird, because the indie guys are the ones wrestling in front of no one forever.
Sure.
They should be able to do it.
They even dusted off the Big Show and brought him back from Netflix. I mean, why?
It broke up right when you said it.
Oh, I said they even dusted off the Big Show and brought him back from Netflix.
Yeah, because that's the audience you're going to get.
Oh, God.
Three white men like us who are sitting there watching us are going to run quickly to watch Big Show's I was hoping they dust off after that incredible, one of my favorite Stone Cold interviews on there. I was hoping Mark Henry was going to come back and do a little challenge.
Yeah.
He was so incredible in that interview. I mean, I'm not going to lie, I cried a little bit at the beginning. He was incredible in that interview. The story's amazing, and I wanted him to come out and challenge Drew or Braun.
And the thing about
challenge Braun, that would make Braun look so good.
he is a underrated promo guy, I feel. Like, if you go back to that Hall of, like, Pain run, he's absolutely so believable on the mic and terrifying.
When he fooled, everyone can lie. He fooled everyone with that retirement.
Oh, yes.
No one's ever done. Ever since they tried to do it, he fooled everyone. And then when he grabbed Cena, you're like, oh, fuck, man. And it did not add up. The match itself wasn't great, but that build to it was unbelievable. And that just proved how much people wanted to root for it. Because at the end of the day, you still, no matter what, good guy or bad guy, you believe that guy can kill you.
Yeah, I believe he could pop my head off at any time that he really wanted to.
He squished frying pans.
Yeah, it's terrifying.
Squished them.
Oh, man. You talk about believability. Him, Brock Lesnar, there are certain guys that you just see, and it just gets rid of all unbelievability.
You know who else is like that? Cesaro.
Absolutely.
He'll never get pushed, so all us fans in the world have to stop asking for it. I mean, understand. He can't talk. He doesn't have the personality. I get that. But, man, I really wish they did something, because every time he's in the ring, he's the guy that I'm like, I think he's really wrestling. I think he's really doing things. He's not. He's obviously not. But he's so strong. When you watch him, you're like, I would rather fight Brock than run away from him. Cesaro scares me at every level. I'm like,
sure.
You're also quick. It's like, the guys like that, you just watch them and you're like, that's a scary human being.
He did the giant swing with Khali. That's absolutely insane.
Which sounds like a porn move. They do the old giant swing with Khali. That works.
Dave's going to go out and rent that later.
Hey, you know what? It's easy to stream everything now. I'll find it.
Man.
I'll just bend you over the Punjabi prison and do that.
Now that sounds like my marriage.
Ew.
One thing we were going to ask you about, but I guess this kind of goes with wrestling too. Like, we're in a very PC culture right now. Does that create harder obstacles for you to do your comedy, or does that just go back to fuck it? I'm going to be me. I'm going to do me. If they don't want me, then I won't do the gig.
Well, not so much fuck it. I mean, like, yeah, in a way, fuck it, but like the people that are yelling and screaming about everything, PC culture, cancel this, all that. Those people don't go out. They're losers in front of computers. That's the thing. They're the minority. They're a loud minority. And if you go to a comedy club, no one is yelling, please don't say words. They're not. They're there for comedy. They want to ticket and they want to laugh. So, like, a lot of these comics are getting scared and saying, oh, it's PC. Because, yeah, you're getting shut down on social media. Well, then don't put that shit on social media. Go on stage, make people come see you, and they're going to laugh at what you do. And if you're funny, they'll support it. But Bill Burr is still putting out hours. Yeah. Chappelle's still putting out hours. No one's stopping for me. Mark Norman's new special is great, and it's not PC at all. I mean, Jim Jeffries' new thing, he's not holding anything goddamn back. When you're good at it, and you do it, people will pay for it and see it. It's just the people that want attention and likes, but in the audience, the only thing you're supposed to like is the comic. So it actually switches. So that's all it really is, even with wrestling. I think if you go to a ring, if you go to an arena and watch a wrestling match, if you're good again, you're not worried about what they're saying or too much blood. You're just watching the moment, the story. That's it. But like at TV, you're like, I can't have my kids see this. Well, okay, then turn it off. You don't have to yell. You don't have to try to get rid of them. You don't have to shut down what they're doing. Just watch something else.
Another question I want to ask you, comparing a little bit to comedy to wrestling here. We've had a lot of trainers on this show, like Al Snow, George South, Ken Anderson, Rudy Gonzalez, though. He was one.
Tom Pritchard.
Yeah. Rudy Gonzalez, though, who trained him and Shawn Michaels helped train Daniel Bryan. We're talking about the greatest love was like actually getting to train people. Like he loved training more than wrestling. Pat, I understand you've done some seminars and trained people, and unfortunately trained AJ too. But not counting AJ, is there a certain love did you get out of training as well? Is it just completely different, or how would you compare training to performing?
Well, it's selfish because I don't believe in. I've said this at the beginning of every comedy school I've taught. I don't believe in comedy class. I don't believe it. You can't teach someone to be funny. Sure. But just like wrestling school, there are some people who need to go to a couple of schools, or some people who can just make an extra talk. Some people don't know how to get into something. If you don't have the balls to just go to an open mic, put your name on a list, and try for the first time, and you need that kick, which is take a class, then good. I'm happy that's there. That's what it should be there for, just to open the door to say, all my classes, my book, everything is about how not to fail at open mics, because that's all you should be doing is going there and doing that. But that being said, when I teach comedy classes, or I help someone one-on-one, or I help someone with their act, it makes me feel like I'm going back to the gym, if you will. You know, like, almost like in Rocky 3, when Rocky has that thing, and Apollo's like, come with me to my gym in L.A., and we go out there, and then you see all the eye of the tiger, all these hungry people with passion, and you need to be around that. So when I'm watching young people care about comedy, and wanting to learn it, it makes me go, yeah, I need to feel like that, so I have to keep writing, and I'm pushing myself. So constantly being around it is good. So I do it for more of a selfish aspect than anything else. I don't care about them. Obviously, I'm happy AJ quit.
You know, it's funny. This is the second Rocky 3 reference we've had on this podcast. The other one was Danny Moff, who, if you don't know, is a 300-pound Puerto Rican wrestler who's known for brawling and busting people up. I would have not thought the second Rocky 3 reference would be from Pat Oates, but I'm pretty happy it was, though.
I am one of the biggest Rocky fans in the world.
Yes.
Obviously, I have a dispute with one thing. There is no such thing as Rocky 5. That's a myth.
Oh.
It was never made.
Yes.
So if you bring it up, I don't know what you're talking about. It doesn't happen.
Oh.
I'm equal opportunity. When I go running for my runs every day, I listen to soundtrack music from both White Rocky and Black Rocky. That's how good I am.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Black Rocky is Creed.
Yeah.
And like yourself, I like to believe that they went straight from the Russian killing Apollo to Rocky training his son. To me, that's just the only way to remember it.
Well, what I think happened was, it was like a Jacob's Ladder scenario, where it was just a weird, they were dead the whole time. Because why would Rocky help out this guy who ended up getting AIDS in real life and had a weird time? I don't know what that story is. The Go For It song is fine. They could have kept the Go For It song. That's about it.
Oh, man. Hard to follow that one.
How do you not love Rocky if you're a wrestling fan? That was that's what Rocky 3 is what made wrestling mainstream to everyone.
Oh, you know what's funny, too? I want to say this, though, because I do love Rocky. So you're right. I like Rocky and wrestling. But it's funny being a wrestling fan. I was out with this girl a couple of weeks ago. We had dinner, came back to my place. Not that good of a story. We just watched some reality TV shows. But I realized, well, there's some better stuff, but we're not going to include that. There's names. But we're watching the show, and it's funny, like, she's buying into this, and I realize as a wrestling fan, I'm seeing through everything now. I'm like, oh, they did that as, like, a shoot angle. That's not really real, though. That's bullshit. And I had to, like, shut up, because I was ruining this for her.
Everything's a work.
Of course it'll work. What are you, fucking more? It's all work.
Everything in life becomes a work kit.
For her. Was she 4? She's never seen this.
We don't have to worry about her age. That wasn't part of this.
I got to tell you, I would love to have a conversation with your co-host Brandon from the Pato Files, because I piss my wife off constantly because every conspiracy theory she comes up with, I tell her that everything's a work because of wrestling, that somebody's behind everything.
That's what he believes. The world's a work. It's run by like 7 or 8 people. It's crazy. I've been friends with Brandon for most of my comedy career, and he did a little bit of comedy here and there, but mostly was a DJ, but also someone who always got involved in things at a crazy level and following them. And he does not believe going out to eat with him right now is amazing because he will not wear a mask. He fights with everyone and everything. It's amazing to watch. And he's got a way to have an answer to everything anyone says, and I'm sitting there behind him with a mask and just wanting a burrito. That's it. That's all I want.
Yeah, I told my wife that Beyonce Knowles is actually in charge of everything, and she's furious at me.
I'd like to use her last name.
No.
No one says Knowles anyway. You use government name Beyonce. How dare you?
I was going to go with Beyonce Z, but wait.
Is that your last name?
That one got me a little late. So, one other thing we wanted to ask you about comedy related to, because I watched some of your podcasts, and it was episode 2, and you have the 2 fat kids in the back eating McDonald's.
He's been dying to ask you about this.
Well, I just thought about, like, you were talking about how life sucks. I'm doing play-by-play for this, and I thought that I had to ask, what are some of the strangest jobs or gigs you've gotten in comedy? It's got to be interesting.
The strangest one I ever did was I performed an adult Jewish day camp. It's in upper state New York. It's kind of like the movie Meatballs, but with just old people, not kids. They're all, the youngest person was like 70. And it really was during the day, me and a comic, Mike Manoia, he was brand new. I was only a couple years in. We got the gig. We went up there. During the day, there's no electricity at all.
Wow.
And they had a siren they would flare to get the people into the main hall, which I don't know if you guys know history, but if you hit a siren and a bunch of Jews go into one room, it's usually not a good thing. But that's how we had to do the show, but there was no lights or microphones. They lit what they call memorial death candles all across the stage. And then so here I am with my bald head screaming at these Jewish people, trying to get them to laugh at things when I can't do any pop culture, nothing. I pretended that I met Jackie Mason at Yankee Stadium because I thought those are things they liked. And I just made up this long story. And they weren't fans, but it was a weird gig. I performed in strip clubs. Like you said, I've had for radio, I've had to be a judge for mothers doing air guitar to win tickets to NSYNC. I had to do that thing. You saw that's not a guy named Ski Mask, his podcast. Two fat people eating the most McDonald's as I did play-by-play. It's been a fun.
Yeah, I don't feel so bad about bringing you to Pistol Pete's anymore. Yeah.
Pistol Pete's is one of the highlights of my whole career.
I'm picturing you up in that camp, though, in upstate New York, with half the audience going, "He's no Henny Youngman. I saw him in the Catskills."
And some of them are like, "Who's Henny Youngman? Is he new Henny Youngman?" The best part of that story was somebody got so mad at me that they got up to leave, but they had a walker. So as they were trying to leave, it was so silent. You hear cuckoo, cuckoo, and they breathe and go, "Boo!"
Oh my God. All right, Pat, we won't keep you any longer. We appreciate you doing the pod with us. You've been absolutely awesome. Please, anything you want to promote, please share with us.
The Podophiles podcast, go to YouTube. It's on Podophiles podcast, the channel there. Also my own channel, Pat Oates channel. That's where my Pat Oates podcast is. And my show, POS, which is also on Compound Media. So, yeah, I name every show after myself. But there are all three different shows there. Please check all of those out. And I don't know when this is coming out, but I'll be back at the casino at Mohegan Sun, August 5th through 9th. I'll be there for the whole week, opening up for what's his name, Ryan O'Flanagan. So I'll be there the entire week, staying up that way. So if you're around the area, come back out and see some comedy. Wear a mask, but have some fun.
We will definitely stop in for that. Thank you very much for that, Pat. That's awesome. Hopefully we'll see you in August at the show. And thank you for everything, Pat. It was a pleasure having you on.
Thank you so much. I mean, I'll talk wrestling forever, so thank you so much.
Hey, you're welcome to come back anytime and promote anything you want to promote.
Hit me up. I'd love to talk about pay-per-views or whatever. It'd be great.
This is Rapid Delivery Rory Fox, and you're listening to the Working Fans Podcast.
All right, everybody, it's the Working Fans Podcast with the man they called. Today we got a special guest on, a guy who's been wrestling since 1999, in fact. Been all over the place on a show called MTV True Life. I'm going to be a pro wrestler. And he's competed with a lot of the all-time greats. Mr. Rapid Delivery, Rory Fox. Rory, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great. How are you, Dave?
I'm great, Rory. Thank you. Now, you started in 1999. You said you were trained by Les Thatcher?
That is correct.
Yeah. And how was it breaking the business with Les and that overall experience?
Well, one thing, I had these lifelong aspirations of being a professional wrestler. When I started training, there was WWF, there was WCW, and ECW. So, no more options when I started. It's almost like now, there's so many options now, but just like back then. But anyway, when I started, it was a little different than when I started to finish things up 10 years later. But yeah, back in I went there in 1998. It was the summer of '98, and I did my research with Les Thatcher. I checked with other places. The ECW school, they would never return my call. I left messages at Killer Kowalski school, but Les Thatcher, he took the time to talk to me on the phone. He probably talked to me for maybe 20 minutes. He encouraged me and my dad to come out for a visit. So we drove almost, it was 8 hours out to Cincinnati to visit with Les. And he was just such a charming person. And I thought about it, like, look, he's a smaller guy like me, especially in '99. A guy 5'8", it's a real uphill final battle in professional wrestling. And I looked at it, it was like, this guy had wrestled for 20 years, and then he went into the announcing booth and did interviews, so it's like, this guy has got to be good. So I just had a good feeling, and I picked up everything, and went from Watkins, Iowa, population 100, to Cincinnati, Ohio. And every day I learned something with Les. He was there, hands-on, in the ring with us. He was very tough. He had a lot of expectations. Very, very intelligent, very personable.
That's awesome. I've only heard good things about Les, and he trained you as a wrestler, but he was an announcer as well and did other things. Did you ever get trained to do other things as well, whether it was manager, announcing, and had you had the opportunity to do some of that stuff?
Well, with Les, this was the best way to do it, and all his students went through this. Like Shark Boy, Cody Hawk, who trained Dean Ambrose, John Moxley, and Eli Drake, and others. Nigel McGuinness, BJ Whitmer, when we had our training, but until we had our first match, you would be a referee. So that way, you're inside the ring with wrestlers with much more experience. And you got to listen in on them calling the spots, just how they put a match together. That was one advantage. Refereeing got you somewhat comfortable in the ring. And the great thing about Les is he had connections with Jim Cornette, and Les goes back to Smoking on Wrestling. So you could be in the ring refereeing a match between Tracy Smothers and Ricky Morton. I mean, it was such a genius way to start out. Refereeing is the best way to do it before you actually become a professional wrestler.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, too, because almost any kind of job, you almost want to get, especially with something like that, you want to get comfortable with your surroundings. And you being a referee, you're getting the in and out of the ring a little more, better than just be jumped in there cold.
And the other motivation is once you started refereeing, it's like, you wanted to be a wrestler so bad after that, because you're in the ring, you're hearing the crowd, you're watching the wrestlers manipulate the crowd to get the desired reaction they're looking for. The babyface trying to get the crowd behind them, the heel trying to get everyone in the crowd upset and cursing. And then this was the same with Les as well. If you were working hard on looking like a professional wrestler, you're going to stay a referee a long time. That's the thing with Les. He'll keep you around forever. You can keep training, but, if you don't dedicate yourself to the gym, you're just going to stay a referee, because he believed not only should you be a good wrestler, you should look like a professional wrestler. And the other little caveat we had was Les would not let you wrestle until you had a pair of wrestling boots. And how Les would gauge you back in the day in training, like say the 4 to 6 months. Back then, you probably had to train for 6 months before you got a match. And here's what we would do, and I learned from other guys, maybe about 6 months into your training, you make that commitment to get your custom-made professional wrestling boots, and it just put a different light on you. It's like, look, let's change this young person. Like, okay, they are serious about this. They made the commitment and bought Stagecoach Wrestling or whatever, wrestling boots. That was a big step. Let's really would notice you, and it would get you that much closer to having your first match.
I've been talking wrestling lately is like getting your game face up. Like you hear people say there's a difference between playing wrestler and being a pro wrestler and getting in that zone before a ring. But one thing I've been thinking about lately, you've been a heel and a baby face. Different getting yourself ready for a match being a heel or face. Is there a different way of pumping yourself up, or is the process kind of similar no matter what? You're going out there to perform and kick some ass.
The preparation is about the same, because whether I'm the baby face or the heel, I have just one level of energy. It's the same level of energy each way. The heel, as soon as I go through that curtain, I'm not going to shut my mouth. I'm going to talk trash all the way to the ring, let everyone know that I'm the best and you're lucky to see me. And I want everyone to hate me before the bell even rings. Now, when I'm the babyface, it's the same thing. I'm coming out a big ball of fire. I won't shut up. I'm so fired up. I'm ready to be out there and make all you wrestling fans happy and put on a great show. So the energy level's the same. It's just the manner that I'm going to do it that night. But yeah, the preparation's the warming up, warming yourself up, getting ready for the match. That part's never okay. Anyway.
You know what is interesting is like, like right now we have a lot of empty arena matches. And I can tell by your voice too, you haven't really enjoyed them. And the thing is, I was thinking about, a lot of it was like when I was younger, like, okay, well, I view things differently as a fan now. I enjoy rotation more, and rotation is missing. But like, I was thinking about this a little further, and I was curious your opinion on it. When you're at an indie, 20 people there, but you're playing to those fans, and those fans in attendance are going to have a good time because you're getting them in the show. But when you're in an empty arena and it's a TV product and you're watching at home, there's just none of that. It's just very sterile, and it's just, okay, what can we do here?
Yeah, if I'm one of the wrestlers and I'm being employed and being paid by WWE or Impact Wrestling or whatever, that would make it a lot easier. But on an independent show, it's, sometimes you only have 20 people there, but if you can get 20 people yelling in a small building, it'll still make a lot of noise. But watching WWE, what they were doing, AEW was the first one to bring in the crowd participation, right, with the other wrestlers. Yeah, that made a huge difference. But those shows for WWE, it was just really tough. If you think about it, you're watching this match, and it is so quiet. It's like you hear the air conditioners and just this dead air in the background. I'm wow, it's really tough as a fan to watch that. Oh, I was going to tell you, I think Rory Fox, Matt Striker, the other Matt Striker from HWA, some of us other guys, we were actually innovators of a different kind of empty wrestling. Back in 1999, it was called Cyber Fight Wrestling. And it would be in this empty building. They would set up a wrestling ring and film you. And I guess online they would add in the crowd noise and everything. But I was we were doing empty arena wrestling 20 years ago.
You guys are like some of the forefathers there. That's good.
I guess it's now you'd say it was that type of custom wrestling, but we didn't know that. We just knew we paid a lot of money. We were in our wrestling gear, and we just threw in matches like we were trained in school.
Now, I want to ask you now, one of the things, everybody's got on this, but it's for a lot of wrestlers, one of the tougher aspects. What would you say was the tougher part for you to adjust to certain things? Was it cutting a promo, working up a sauna? What was the toughest thing for you?
I think the promo wasn't that bad because I've been watching wrestling since I was 5 years old, so there was already certain wrestlers I emulated. So I already had kind of a cadence, how you spoke. It's just working on what you're going to say. The hardest part was for me is, pro wrestling where when they try to remember the whole match in the back. That's what I really struggled with, calling the whole match in the back, and I get out there and I'd get a couple minutes in and I'd totally forget where we were going in this match. Back in the day, I would have what they call a brain fart. It's like when we're really green, we have to put our whole matches together. We can't really calling a match was really difficult, but I would get out there and I'd have these what we call brain freezes or brain farts. And I'm like, oh God, I have no idea where I'm at. And as I became more comfortable, I focused more on my selling and the presentation and having step-by-step what move is next. And if that answers your question, I kind of rambled there. But
I have a business. I sell bread, and for a while, I would have trouble remembering, when I started, what store sold what and everything. We had so many different items to sell, but after a while, I started to concentrate on my core items, the top sellers, and I realized things started working out better a little bit. So I get that. That makes a lot of sense.
When I learned it was more about bullet points, I had a lot more success. Just have an outline of where you're going. Have your finish. You're going to have a few little things that you want to make sure you do in the match, but otherwise, just go with the flow, see what the crowd's buying, and work on your selling is so important, because if they believe in what you're doing, you'll have them. But that going out there trying to remember a match, and the crowd sees your facials. Like Les used to say this all the time. It's all about the facials. If you're out there trying to remember what's next, you're not selling that guy punching you in the stomach properly, or just all the little nuances. It's just
that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I heard one of the best things with selling too. I don't know if it was, I heard it with Ricky Morton or Ricky Steamboat, maybe both of them, but they would try, like, if they were getting beat down to, like, almost make eye contact with members of the audience, you know, like, reaching out. And I was like, oh, that makes so much sense when I look back, like, the passion and everything in that ring. You feel like you're a part of it almost.
Yes, when I am a babyface, I have stolen some of that. The whole Ricky Morton said he'd be almost pretty much looking at someone in the crowd and saying, help me. And you make that eye contact with them, like, you know what, that fan cheering for you right now, you kind of give them that look like, you know what, you are making a difference. Keep yelling for me, and we're going to climb this hill.
Yeah.
And that's a thing. Little did I know, I think it's December of 2018, I actually got to wrestle Ricky Morton in Des Moines for 3X Wrestling.
That's amazing. Ricky's still going. It's funny. I had him on the pod once, and we were talking, like, so this was last year, 2019. I said, I saw him wrestle twice live, and I never thought it would be in 2019. I saw him at an independent show and a New Japan show that came in Northeast. I watched Ricky in the 80s, like most people, and I'm thinking, like, no way I thought I'd be watching him wrestle live in 2019, but there he was.
Yeah, it's just the fact that so many of these legends are still around, and they still know what to do out there to get a reaction, make it memorable to the fans. Me and my buddy we joke quite a bit about the wrestling because we've gone to shows together for like the last 25 years. And this, AWE wrestling historian, he pops up on Instagram stories every day, this date in history. And me and my buddy Jerm, we went to WCW's Great American Bash in the Quad Cities in 1998. And here's a match with Glacier, and it's like, you know, I was just a kid then, and he's just like, did you ever think you were going to have a match in what was it, 2019? Did you ever think in 2019 you'd be in a tag team match teaming with Glacier? Like, how crazy?
That's fine. I was going to ask you that. I was curious because, like, you had done some enhancement work with WWE, and I was kind of curious, like, what's it like going to do enhancement work in the sense that, you know, you're there to do a job, but sometimes you're going to work with guys like Haku and stuff like that, who you probably saw when you were younger. Like, I got to imagine it's super exciting at the same time.
Oh, yeah, I definitely assisted Haku. 1986, 5 Season Center in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, there's a WWF house show there, and he was called King Tonga then. Yeah. And I'm there, 10 years old. I'm a 10-year-old kid in the crowd, and if you think about it, this is a packed house, 8,000 people in there, and this little kid up in the risers is going to be wrestling Haku one day on a television taping in Minneapolis, Minnesota, in front of 20,000 fans at the Target Center.
Yeah, that's awesome. There's nothing. That's just amazing. Yeah, it's funny. Like, I find that even just from, we've been doing this podcast in September, and maybe it's just like if you're passionate about the wrestling business. But like, when I got to interview, like, you know, certain guys like Al Snow or Ricky Morton, you know, it was like, I get goosebumps. I get super excited. It's like, oh my God, I've seen this guy live on TV. I don't even know when this is going to air, but it's funny. We just interviewed George South, who did a lot of enhancement work, obviously, back in the day. Yep. And we met George. He's a guy, like, I didn't know what to expect going in. I didn't really ever talk to him, but he's so passionate and so excited. He gets you excited talking to him. I'm like, oh my God, I'm the biggest fan of this guy now.
Yeah, I'd probably talking for like 2 hours just talking about stuff and how he did things back then, and then just also his stories. It's just, yeah. I mean, you how can you not get goosebumps just hearing his stories? And he's another guy with a lot of passion. I mean, he just lives and breathes professional wrestling, even at this age.
Yeah, now, you're obviously very passionate about this because you have another job you do day to day, I believe, and you're still making this work. Like, I mean, right now I'm sure it's very hard, but hopefully we'll have some stuff coming out soon. But, you know, you're still doing what you can just to get out to reform. It's got to be just because you love doing it.
Yeah, I you know, before this pandemic happened, it's like I literally am the weekend warrior, and I'd be at work all week during the morning, promo ideas, promos, angles, just things just pop into my head all day at work while I try to do my job, and just ideas are coming all day, and it's like now, it's like I'm looking for any inspiration, like something with the Zack Ryder deal, or now with the Talking Shop, Good Brothers, all that stuff. It's like, God, I feel like a songwriter. It's like all of a sudden, just in the blink of an eye, this promo pops my head, and it's like I have to film this quick at home. Or like at work the other day when I thought, you know what, I got to promote this more right now while the iron's hot. The Talking Shop podcast. I just went home and filmed the promo quick, but I did a voice text at work just like to make sure, I didn't have a pen and paper to write it down. I didn't feel like doing that. It's like, all right, I'm going to do this voice text memo right now, and these are those bullet points I want to say right now. And so it's just you get inspired, and it's like if you don't write it down or do something right there, you forget about it and it's gone.
Right.
Or it may not be as good as the original idea that popped in your head.
No, absolutely. And, it's funny. Like, yeah, I just started listening to that podcast, and I heard you on the other day. And sure enough, I said, I want to get this guy on. He's super exciting. He's fun. And, and I look at it like this too. Like, maybe we're a smaller, limited audience, but like, I want people to know about, hey, listen to this guy. Get to know him. You're wrestling fans. Look him up. And I hope that all, works out. You know what I mean? Like, everybody tries to help each other in the business because it's just, I don't know. We're still a niche audience. As big as wrestling is, it's niche. And I like to think, like, we got to all work with each other sometimes,
Yeah, and the key thing is with me, the MTV thing was 20 years ago, and the Exploding Trunks of Zack Ryder was 10 years ago, but yet somehow these little things are remembered, and I'm smart enough now to where if any kind of mention or something happens, I'm going to capitalize on it. It's just, I'm just taking what the universe is still giving me. The reason I was even interviewed on the Talking Shop podcast was Carl Anderson made a comment that, you know what, how did he not capitalize that? I don't understand that. Give me an MTV show. Yeah, sure, give me an MTV show now. And make me 10 or 15 years younger. I'll knock it out of the park and go everywhere. But no, it's just, when I heard that, I felt the need to respond. And that's the thing. I want everyone out there to know. It's always no if you don't ask. Sometimes you're going to get that yes. I've got a lot of no's or no answer, but I got a yes. He replied back immediately. And another example, the Zack Ryder thing. Zack Ryder was interviewed by Chris Jericho for Talkers Jericho 4 or 5 years ago. It was like the 5th anniversary of the Exploding Trunks.
Yeah.
And after I heard it, and I was just so upset because they were joking and laughing about the most embarrassing thing in my career. And I met Chris Jericho once 20 years ago, the night before, not 20, but close to it, at the NWO Sold Out was in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, 5 Season Center. Oh, yeah. I got pictures with Eddie Guerrero and his mullet and Chris Jericho. Maybe I'll send that picture to you. But I'm sitting here just doing the indies in Iowa, nothing really going on, and I was so upset about that podcast. I said, Chris, I understand you're going to be in Des Moines performing with your Fozzy band. May I tell my side of the story of the wrestling trunks, of the Exploding Trunks? And this is a guy with 2 million followers on Twitter. Yeah. He's known worldwide. He's had this amazing career. And he's like, absolutely, I would love to have you on the show. I'm thinking, look at this. Just that one little, I just asked, and I got a yes. And next thing you know, November comes, I'm being interviewed by one of my idols on his tour bus, and he's just thrilled to talk to me. Yeah. I mean, how crazy is that?
100%. And I love that attitude. This is about you, but I can connect on that. And I just recently, I won't drop his name, and we're still trying to get the interview, but there's a guy. Because we've interviewed guys on Ring of Honor, MLW, NWA, and we had a guy I approached about doing an interview at Impact Wrestling. And he said, sure. And then he went back and he said, it has to be approved by PR. I was like, no problem. And he was nice enough, and he said, I can get you that PR information if you want. And I said, absolutely. But he said, if you don't want it, I understand. And I said, why the hell would I not want that? I said, of course I want that. I'm like, that would help me out so much. And I told him, I said, I just think there's no harm in asking as long as you ask nicely.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And in the old way they used to test you, from what I've heard in the old days, in the 80s, the guy back before the cell phones and text message, and the WWF in the 80s, you had to call Pat, oh my God, this is Dusty Wolf. He was an enhancement guy in the WWF in the 80s. Then he was called Dale Wolf when Dustin Rhodes was there. he used to have to call the office, and Pat Patterson kept saying no. Maybe I'm getting my stories mixed up now, but anyway, Pat Patterson kept saying no, and finally they're like, okay, if I give you a shot, will you stop calling me? He's like, yeah, and it worked out. But no, Gutsy did hear some no's, but Terry Garvin helped get him in. That was a different story, but he did hear no's before. But no, it was no, and then there was a yes. It's just, and that's the thing. Once you get that yes, that is your opportunity. It may be a one-time, or it could be the start of many. But if you nail that one time, you finally do get a chance. It's unlimited to what you can do.
Absolutely. One thing I want to ask about, like you talked about the trunks exploding incident with Zack Ryder. Now, obviously that was tough at the time, but now, like you said, like you can learn to capitalize on that a little bit. Is part of that, for me, I don't know, getting older, you realize you can it's almost like it's an asset to be able to laugh at yourself and laugh at situations that were difficult at that time. Do you feel like that's something as you got older, like, okay, I can kind of like joke about this now and deal with this better, or just curious?
I'd say the first 5 years there was no laughing about it. When that happened, I only wrestled a year longer. I was 35, and you think about that now, it's like, God, 35, AJ Styles is 40, and this is, I was 35, and I was like, I'm done with this. Because it's like, in my mind, I couldn't go back. I didn't even contact the office again. I was so upset, and you talked about Al Snow earlier. I was on a show with Al Snow there, and he even told me back then, but it just didn't dawn on me. He goes, Rory, do you know how many times the audience has seen my junk? It's not the end of the world. Because Al Snow used to get ribbed by Mick Foley. They would hold him up in the air for the vertical suplex, and Mick would use his other hand to kind of grab on that singlet. And then, I guess his ball sack would hang out. Yeah, I had no idea. It's just, I was so embarrassed. No one in the office said anything to me. So I was like, you know what? I was so burned out on just wrestling on the independents. It's like, if I can't be in WWE, I can't do this 100 people in the crowd anymore. It's like, I don't want to do this. I'm tired of being broke. I want money. So I got out for 4 years, and I think around the 5th anniversary, Ryder put like a happy anniversary, and he put something on Twitter, and that kind of gave me that itch again, and I didn't really do anything about it, but that 10th anniversary is when things really started to happen with it, and I thought, you know what, I got to capitalize on these things. It's like, my name gets thrown out there. Yeah. Chris Jericho, I made it into Chris Jericho's book about the exploding trunks incident. It's like, look, you got these couple things you're known for. It's like, now it's nostalgia, but if you're a heel, you look like the has-been off MTV, and that's great. You can brag that like you're the star of MTV, and you get heat for acting like you're this big star. But it works either way. As a good guy, it's nostalgia, but as a bad guy, you brag yourself up your has-been, and it really worked out.
100%. Now, how did they approach you? How did MTV end up approaching you? I never actually heard that story, so I'm curious.
That was another thing, the time-honored tradition in wrestling where one wrestler screws up, another wrestler gets the opportunity. Like, for instance, Triple H, a young Hunter Hearst Helmsley, he did the curtain call. He was supposed to win King of the Ring that year. We got to punish him. He's the only one left that we can punish. We can't mess with HBK. So let's take his King of the Ring crown away. Let's give it to Steve Austin. Austin 316 is born. So the MTV thing happened. We had this kid, Matt Tagley, a spoiled kid from Chicago. Originally, he was picked. They brought him out to Cincinnati. They were going to film his training and outside the ring as well, going to the gym, doing whatever. But just the whole key thing was it was based on 3 stars. One guy at the beginning of his career, one that's going to be the champion, and then one guy that's at the end of his career. So you had Tony Atlas and Triple H. All 3 stories going. And this kid couldn't just go to training every night like he's supposed to. We had training, like, say, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then on Sundays. And he could not do that. He's a rich kid, so he was going to the bars every night and staying out way late. And I would have to go to the motel he was staying at and pick him up. And the curtains would be drawn at 5 o'clock at night. So he probably got in at like 4 or 5 in the morning, and then he would sleep till 5 o'clock at night. And he just wasn't showing up for training. And he was already, it's like on the video, he was already telling girls that he was a pro wrestler. But he'd only been training for a couple weeks, which that'll get you red hot. And eventually he ended up having a severe drug problem, and he got shipped off to rehab. And during that time, Bank Starver, the producer of the show, went around interviewing different students. And he really liked my story, the fact that I'm this young kid from Watkins, Iowa, never even have left the state of Iowa. I picked up everything I had and moved out to Cincinnati because I just was not satisfied with going to Whirlpool or Man Refrigeration Factory day in, day out. And it was killing me to watch every Monday night and think, God, can I do this or not? I have to find out, because if I never go, I'll be miserable the rest of my life. So I picked up everything and moved out there. And I guess it came across well to this producer, like, hey, why don't we try out this Iowa kid, since the Chicago thing's a bust? Let's follow him in training. And then, boom, off we go. I'm already getting an opportunity, and I haven't even had a match yet.
Wow. That's awesome. I guess it goes to the say, right? Just always have your gear ready. Just be ready for anything and be willing to do it.
Yeah. And when I had my first match, I had to actually buy him from one of the other kids training there. This real good kid from Texas. He didn't like wearing his wrestling boots. He liked wearing, what's those other shooters they have, the little black shoes. They're not ASICs, but they're something else.
Yeah. Roddy Strong would wear them sometime. Those little.
Yeah, those things. But anyway, he preferred wearing those. So I took his wrestling boots, and I'm like, hey, let's use this kid. Oh, by the way, another funny Les story. Les was so serious about you wearing wrestling boots on his show. That kid, his name was Jeremy Jett. He's in the ring having a match, and Les is dangling the wrestling boots off to the side of the building, like, what's he doing out there in them damn shoes? That was great. Oh, before I forget, about Les's dedication to his students. I don't know of anyone doing this now, but back in the day, we had Sunday training, and you know what? We're young kids in our early 20s. We're not looking forward to Sunday morning training. You know, we're going to the bars Friday, Saturday nights if there's no wrestling shows. And boy, if you didn't show up for training at 11 on Sundays, I guarantee you this was going to be on your voicemail. This is just, you know, the answering machine in your house.
Right.
This, for example, this was mine when I didn't show up one time. Okay, the phone rings. Hello, this call is for Steve Moss. This is Les Thatcher, and your ass is grass. Click. Yeah, I'm like, oh shit. Training Monday's not going to be very fun.
Yeah.
Your ass is grass.
But you know what? It's that kind of passion, and he had ideas of making you guys better wrestlers, and you know, that's awesome. And I'm sure you would say you definitely probably owe a lot of success just in your life to Les, I would imagine.
Yeah, and the great thing with Les, if he's already in the office, you can come to training early and then work on little spots that you watched in matches. You know, like, usually everybody at wrestling's got one person they really get along with at training, and then they want to work on moves together. So, me and Jeremy Jett, we come before training, and we do some Owen Hart stuff from New Japan or Tiger Mask Dynamite Kid stuff. And, you know, we work on all these little spots and these moves. And then Les would even let us, if he's still in the office after training, we could work on stuff. That was when you worked on new moves, because at training, you're learning how to bump and put on little matches. But when you want to work, you want to freestyle and work on other stuff. You did it before or after training. And the ones that usually did that were the ones that were the most successful.
One other thing I wanted to ask you about, I saw that you live in Iowa. You were also born in Iowa.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the aspect of traveling then? Because a guy who's basically lived in that state, I would wonder, like, I would think, like, he's probably not a big fan, and that might be one of the most challenging things. But was it? I don't know.
Traveling?
Yeah, was that challenging for you, or did you adapt to that right away, or how did you think of all the travel right away?
I'm so much better at it now. It's like I just look forward to it. I work out of Iowa City. As soon as I would get off work, there'd be days where and mind you, I would have to open the store I worked at 5 a.m. I might leave at 2 o'clock, and then I got 4 hours right to St. Louis, and bell time's 7:30. You know, and then some nights I have to open the store in the morning, so I'm leaving the show and coming right back. But I mean, it's just you just feel free as a bird when you're on that road, listening to music, podcasts, whatever, heading to that next town. It's the best feeling. And I don't ride with anybody. anybody either. I go all these places by myself. I like, I don't have to share the radio with anybody. I'll go to St. Louis. I would go to Minneapolis, Kansas City, Quad Cities, maybe Sioux City. But I got this nice little circle. I'd like to get more in Chicago, but the thing is, as you get older in wrestling, traveling gets a little better too because you can afford a better vehicle. It was so tough in the beginning when you're broke ass and you're putting 4 or 5 people in a car, like myself, Cody Hawk, Ray Steele, Shark Boy. We would go, that 5 hours out to Pittsburgh for PWX. And you know what? One of the things, maybe if I would have did things different. I wasn't as hungry to do that travel like, say, CM Punk and Colt Cabana. Those guys would drive from Chicago to Philadelphia because they wanted to be in Ring of Honor that bad. I give those guys so much credit. I wasn't willing to go Cincinnati to Philly and things like that. It's just, and when I lived in Texas, here's some more crazy traveling at Rudy Boy Gonzalez. He trained Daniel Bryan and Brian Kendrick. Lance Cade, he was so hardcore with his students, he would drive. You pay him, get in the rental car, off you go. He was going from San Antonio to Atlanta, San Antonio to Philadelphia, whatever. It's like, that's a hardcore traveler. He had some guys willing to do that, and I commend those guys.
Yeah, 100%.
But at this stage, I'm good 5 to 6 hours. I'm not too thrilled about 8 hours, but oh my God, if it's for a certain opponent or it's the right dollar amount, yeah, I'll do 8 hours too.
One thing, two more things I want to ask you. One of them being, I don't really ask this often, but I'm kind of curious. You're a very straightforward guy. Maybe you don't have to name any names, but like pet peeves in wrestling. Maybe something that somebody will do in a match or something that like would bother you as a wrestler. Like, man, like why did the guy do that? Or what's something that bothers Rory Fox?
Nowadays, it's like I get tired of seeing you hit this one big move to pick them up to do another big move just for that other person to kick out. Yeah, if you hit me with a big move, I'm going to lay down. I'm not going to get right up so you can knock me down with another move.
Right.
But, it's like I'm like the other old timers. It's just less is more. One day you're gonna need those bumps back that you're wasting by doing so many moves.
Have you ever had anybody be like, I don't know, I mean, stiff and snug's one thing, but have you ever been anybody just been careless with you or try to take advantage of you in the ring?
That kind of stuff happened early on.
Yeah.
Like my first or second year in the business, this one guy had a move where he hooks you in a full Nelson. It was a different type of suplex. I don't know what kind of suplex that was. And I said, no, I really don't feel comfortable taking that move. And this is when he had like 15 years experience and I had one year. And just like I thought, he ended up dumping me on my head on that suplex that he had to get in. These guys that have to get their shit in or stuff that's ridiculous. It's like, I'm not going to do that. If you want to do these 3 moves, I'll let you do that one move, but the other 2, we don't need it. So I'm like, no, we don't need that. We don't need that. The other thing that bothers me, it's just like there's too many kicking out at 2 3/4. Every match does that. I mean, we need more kicking out at 1, 1.5, then maybe 2. It's like, let the opponent wear you down. Like, if you see my matches, you're going to see 1 kickouts. You're not going to see 2 3/4 right at the beginning of the match. I get tired of that too. It's like every match has to have all those near falls. Every match doesn't need the near falls.
One thing I heard Ric Flair say this once was, and this is Flair and Steamboat, but he would say early on that he would knock Ricky down and Steamboat would pop right back up. And he talked to him, he said, Rick, he said, slow it down. He said, maybe get up to like, 1 knee at first, or, like maybe, slowly, work it in, and I was like, oh man, like that's Ric Flair telling you. I was like, okay. You're obviously a very passionate guy. I'll just wrap this up. Is there any goals you got left you want to do in pro wrestling right now?
My goal right now is if Matt Cardona signs with AEW, I would love to have a match with him. Or even I don't know if it's in the cards because I'm 44 that they would let me do a program with him if they plan on making him one of the top guys. But just bring me in one time and just to have a match with Matt Cardona on that AEW stage. Let Rory Fox finally be on that main stage and have a credible match where it's 50-50 or it's competitive. WWE never gave me that one match where I could be really competitive and showcase what I can do. It was always enhancing talent. I think that one wish would be, yes, let me wrestle Matt Cardona on that stage on TNT. It'd be great, if I get in good enough shape, because that's one thing too, Biz. You have to really, really, really be in shape. You got to really look that part. And if I get where I need to be, I would love to do a whole feud with him and having that money behind the promos, just all the angle we could do, and just let me come across to America how much I dislike him and how he ruined my career and the shame I felt, and now I want him to personally feel the shame that I felt for 10 years, and just let that come across on a national stage, and then maybe just let the world audience see that, I'm a pretty good pro wrestler, and it's just a lot of people don't know that. They just, I'm Rapid Delivery or the Exploding Chunks guy. There's a lot more to me. I wish I could show. I would love AEW to be that platform. But otherwise, hey, me and Matt are going to have some matches on the indies, and if that's all it's ever going to be, that's great. I'm still going to keep wrestling because I love to do it. I make pretty good money at it where I wrestle, and I just love being around the boys, exchanging stories, and so many shows. There's a legend here or there, and just getting to pick their brains for 10, 15, 20 minutes, it's wonderful.
That's awesome, man. I hope you get that. I mean, just hearing you talk about it gets me excited. So I'm a wrestling fan, so I think that will translate well, man. Do you have anything you want to promote? Twitter, Instagram, whatever.
Yeah, I'm at Rory Fox _ on Twitter, and I have Rory Fox 11 on Instagram. I also have a Facebook page. But just if you want to look at, there's another complete side to Rory Fox. I call it an alternate personality. I believe, as far as wrestling goes, that I have 2 or 3 wrestling personalities. I am also known, because it came out of this promotion in Kansas City that had some money behind them. We created our own new characters. You had to create a character that they owned, and they went out of business, so it's kind of a free-for-all for using that gimmick because, I got trunks. I got the trunks, the boots, the ring jacket, all this gear, and he's known as Gil Rogers. He's a wrestler that honors the history of the business. He loves to be a professional wrestler. His name is Gil Rogers, and he's also on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. Give him a look. He's also out on social media, but he's nothing like Rory Fox.
All right.
It's almost like the Andy Kaufman and what was his other persona? The guy in the Power Blue Taxi, Tony Clifton.
Tony Clifton, thank you. Yes.
Two completely different person, and one will not acknowledge the other. So you may get nasty Rory Fox yelling at Matt Cardona on Twitter, but you won't hear Gil Rogers discrediting anyone.
That's awesome. Man. All right, hey, thanks for doing the show, Rory. Hey, man, thank you for doing this. I think it came off great. I'm excited. I appreciate you doing this, though. You're awesome to talk to. Thank you. Absolutely a pleasure, man, and I definitely like to have you on again in the future. So,
thank you. Hopefully it comes across well. I tend to ramble sometimes, so.
I mean, I like it. George South is like, he gets very excited. He was all over the place, too, and I thought it was one of my best interviews. I like the passion. I think it goes, when you can tell people just love talking wrestling. I don't know, that's me. I'm 43 years old. I've been a fan since I was like 5 or 6, so, Okay,
yeah, just let me know when, and I'll start to plug it. But yeah, definitely, when you listen to some people, passion is definitely infectious.
Oh, 100%, man, 100%. I definitely felt it.
Yeah, and definitely as you start to interview other people, they're going to be like, well, I did this at this time. You'll find out. But
I've been discovering that. We've been very fortunate, but there's definitely some guys, like, you can tell, it takes them a little while to get warmed up. And sometimes they don't, and then sometimes they're slow starters and they're awesome. I attribute what kind of day somebody's having too, and I got thick skin anyway, so
Well, anyway, you heard this interview. This was booze free. So the other one was me getting drunk with the boys and people I knew for 20 years. And the only difference was I was talking to my friends, and we just happened to be recording it. If you know me, that's how I am if I get around certain people and having fun.
I knew that. I was not expecting the same. I was like, I mentioned, I have a buddy who edit everything and produce everything, and he's on the pod, and I said, I don't think we're going to get the same, Rory, because I would not expect him to be drinking. It sounds like he's going to be coming off of work and then talking to me. So.
But it seems like that's starting to be, if this is what those WWE guys want from me, I mean, I'm going to give that to them. It's like, you know, maybe I'm going to be the new honky-tonk man Iron Sheik in these promos, you know, but minus Iron Sheik's drugs, you know, it's just alcohol-fueled rage. But and the great thing with Matt Cardona is, you know, everyone, I don't need to say that on the show, just between us, it's like, everyone has fun at the wrestling shows.
All right, so that wraps us up for this week. Thank you again for listening to the Working Fans Podcast. So as always, you can find us on Twitter at FansWorking. Our Facebook page is Working Fans Wrestling Pod. We have email where you can reach out to us and let us know what you think also. That's workingfanswrestlingpod@gmail.com. Follow us on Instagram, workingfanswrestling_pod. And then as always, please continue to listen to us on Anchor.fm, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Breaker, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, all your major platforms. If you're following us on Apple Podcasts, which we are also on now, and YouTube, please make sure you subscribe and give us a 5-star rating. It helps us bring you these podcasts where we get to talk to you and talk with you every week.